I'm Danny, and this is Homesteading. What's Homesteading? Well, Jona and I have been traveling for 6 years looking for just the right place, and I think we found it right here in Bisbee, Arizona. We're starting this channel off with a bang. I was lucky enough to go down to Acapulco, Mexico, and meet up with Joel Salatin, where I sat down with him for an hour to talk about
So
farming
today I'm
done
blessed to
right.
have Joel Salatin here, who is, I guess they coined the phrase lunatic farmer for from Polyface Farms. And the first time I'd actually heard about you was not on YouTube or anything. It was from the friends up in Washington, and they were describing to me how you were uh, basically using the animals to farm, and how you would just pick out the best trees. Any tree that was the weakest tree, you would get rid of that tree, mulch that up, and then you'd throw it in the pile, let the pigs stomp on it, or well, the cows would stomp on it. You'd put the mulch on top of that, and they'd shit on it, and then more mulch, and then along the way you'd hide corn inside of there, so that the last step was the pigs would come along and root it all up, and they did all the mixing for you. So you're using the animals and all just the supplies right there on the farm for it to symbiotically work together. And I thought that was very interesting to me, so I started looking into it, and it's a great idea. The first thing I did want to get to, as I mentioned to you, is property rights. I recently listened to your book, and you talked about your father had a farm in Venezuela, and that went awry. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, so Dad was a Midwesterner, Indiana boy, during the Depression, and wanted to farm. Um, and here you are, a young guy, no money, no land. How do you start this? And he was way ahead of his time politically. A lot of people don't realize that right there around World War II, there was a huge socialist move in this country. I mean, that's why Ayn Rand wrote Atlas Shrugged, and she became popular. And so Dad was in the Navy in World War II, flew, got out, GI Bill, and he concocted a plan. He said, "Okay, he was ready to leave the U.S. and go to a less." He already saw the creeping bureaucracy, at that time. Said, "I'm gonna go to a developing country where it's really free." And so he concocted a plan to become a bilingual accountant, and got on with Texas Oil Company. This was 1947 in Venezuela, the beginning of the oil exploration there, and they had these man camps. The managers of the well drilling were Americans, and the workers were Venezuelans, and the tension was always about money. So they wanted a bilingual accountant who could handle the company store and the payroll and be the go between management and the workers. And so he went down in 7 years, was able to save enough money to buy a 1,000-acre farm in the highlands of Venezuela. And the dream was, we saw that I was born then, and the dream was to have dairy and poultry. Those were the two things he saw that were. I mean, they didn't need bananas, they didn't need pineapples. Okay, we had those in the yard, but what they needed was animal protein, and so of course, the quickest one to start is chicken. Chicken has a real fast turnover rate. And so started raising chickens. Well, all the indigenous chickens had nasal drip because they had subtherapeutic pneumonia because of the filth. Squat pots, open sewers, filth, just on their own manure, dirt yards, it was filthy. So they all had this.
The chickens around here run around and do pretty much the same.
Yes. And around the world, and, at Thailand, Vietnam, places. And so started raising these chickens, and ours were clean. Well, you know how these Latin American markets are. The farmers come into their stall, their place, and the middlemen then, I mean, this is, early 1950s. The middlemen, there's no Walmart, there's no Costco, okay? So the middlemen come and shop from the farmers, and then they hawk it through the city. So the banana man comes, the pineapple man comes, the papaya man comes, and the chicken man comes, right? And he's got chickens live, tied to a pole, and he's carrying these upside down chickens, through the marketplace. And the senora, if she wants chicken for dinner, arroz con pollo, right? All right, so she comes out and she then looks at these chickens and runs her finger down their beaks, and the driest ones commanded the higher price. All right, in a Latin American country, there's no price tag, right? It's all negotiation, okay? All right, and so they run their hands down, and so the vendors, the middlemen, were always looking for the cleanest chickens because that's how they built a brand. That's how, I want to get Pedro's chickens because they're the best, and he knows the farmers that have the right. So there's this whole free market incentive to have the best chickens, the cleanest chickens, and there was enough indigenous awareness within the households that they knew what a healthy chicken was. All right, and so within a month, very soon, very quickly, Dad literally took over the local chicken market. Well, the other farmers that raised chickens, they were not happy about this because our chickens were clean. They didn't have any of this snot. And so immediately the other farmers, instead of asking, Senor Salatin, how do you do this? Instead, they accused us of being voodoo, witchcraft, and because that's the only way you could do this. It had to be some spirits. And so we were ostracized, but we kept on. Well, then now we're at 1959, and there's a junta. Okay, so it was a very open, free market, but the downside of that kind of country is that it can be very politically unstable. And so what happens when you have a junta is that law breaks down, and scores that would otherwise not be settled in more normal times can get settled. And so the local folks had scores to settle with us, and we basically fled the back door as the machine guns came in the front door. And we spent another 8 or 9 months in the city. Dad met with he met with the Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary of Treasury, Secretary of Commerce, everybody that he could meet with. Nobody would give us the time of day. And so finally there was nothing to do but leave. He was 39 and lost everything. He was there for 12 years. And I think that's why he died. So he died at 66. I think it broke his heart. He never got over it. And I regret now that I didn't push more to get those stories out of him. It probably would have been cathartic, to share.
You did recover some of the money later on, or?
Okay, so that story, the interesting part of that, and one of the reasons why I have such a deep appreciation for the potential of a free press and the way the media is supposed to work, is that right before, so we were getting ready to leave. We were in Caracas, and we were ready to leave, and Drew Pearson, who was the father-in-law of Jack Anderson, who was in his day would be equivalent to like a Tucker Carlson. So this is before TV was big. This is radio. Radio's big. You got Paul Harvey, Walter Cronkite, early days. And Drew Pearson came down because the U.S. was funneling millions of dollars of foreign aid to the Venezuelan government to prop it up, with this junta happening, to prop it up. And they were assuring everybody Venezuela is taking care of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. They're taking care of expat Americans. And they need all this foreign aid. Well, so Drew Pearson went down with his entourage to do a kind of a fact-finding thing, and Dad got an audience with him. We already had our tickets to leave, and Dad got an audience with him and told him our story. And he said, well, I can't do anything for you right now, but when I get back to the U.S., I'll do what I can. And so we left. Of course, he left. We came back, and about 3 months later, the reason we came to Virginia and not the Midwest where both Mom and Dad were from was because Dad was still hoping to go back. He loved the culture. He loved the place. How can you not love a place you can grow pineapples and bananas in your yard, And so he was hoping to go back. So he wanted to be within, at that time, this is 1961, within 1 day's drive of D.C. So if things settled in Venezuela, we could literally in hours be to the embassy, get paper stamped, and be back to Venezuela. That was the idea. Now that never happened, but we found a farm there in Virginia Shenandoah Valley that was the most eroded, gullied rock pile, very, very cheap, and we're able to procure that. And about 3 months after we moved in, we did get a call from the Venezuelan embassy, and they said, "Come, we have a check for you." And what happened was Drew Pearson, when he returned to the U.S., he got in touch with the Venezuelan ambassador, and he said, "If you don't give Salatin a compensation for taking their land, I'm going to feature them on next week's national broadcast, and that will be the end of any money going to Venezuela from the U.S." And he called us, and it was a token check. It wasn't nearly what we lost, but for Dad, it was an admission. We didn't take care of you. We did you wrong. And with that little check, we bought a little herd of cows, Hereford cows, and started on the farm.
And I asked that question because, we just bought a ranch in Arizona, and we traveled in an RV for 6 years together, trying to figure out where we want to be. And we went all over the U.S. and all over Mexico, and I kept running into the same thing. I'd find a place in Mexico that I liked, and we're like, and I'd ask around and I'd find out, well, maybe it's iffy. Can I keep this? Can I not? And I see a lot of people that are actually here that I've talked to saying that they're going to build one in Nicaragua or, Honduras or whatever. How safe is that? How would you put your money into somewhere outside of the U.S.?
So, of course, I'm a total fan of Doug Casey. I know a lot of people here are. Love Doug Casey. We've been together doing things, and of course, he's an advocate of having multiple places. Fortunately, he has enough money that he can have a little bit of that freedom. I don't have money, so here's where I am. Where I am is that when you look at cultural upheaval, civil upheaval, nothing beats your local neighborhood. In the big cities, when defund the police, we have neighborhood watch. How does one block protect themselves when the city burns? Well, those neighbors, for some leader there, let's all get together and let's protect ourselves, And so I'm a big believer that the ultimate, protection, wealth, whatever you want to call it, is, or security, stability, is being proximate geographically to close relationships with people who know how to grow things, fix things, and build things. To me, that's the new 401k plan. If you want real stability and security, cash out your 401k, invest in relationships nearby with people who know how to grow things, fix things, and build things, and invest in your own skill set. If you know how to fix small engines, if you know how to, build a house, do electrical work, plumbing, welding, these vocational skill sets, what are called durable trades. If you know how to do something like that, you have something that will always be in demand and something you can barter with if the wheels fall off. And so I think that if you put your faith in a national government anywhere, that's probably a misplaced faith. It's better to put your faith in neighborhood friendships that are eclectic enough to have the skill sets that you can circle the wagons if the wheels fall off and survive regardless of whatever happens to the national government. I may be wrong, but that's kind of where I've come to.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially like here in Mexico, there's you never know when the ejido is just going to declare that the land is theirs or whatever. I mean, even Mexicans can lose their land. There's a place in Baja. There was this beautiful hotel, and Mexicans owned it, but the ejido didn't like what was going on, and they lost their hotel. So now they live there, but they can't operate it. So the property rights are pretty.
Yeah, it's
pretty
a lot
important.
easier to get under the radar when you have, when you have an underground network. I mean, think of the people who were able to, for example, protect Jews during the Holocaust. That was a complete underground. Think of the Spanish underground. I mean, look at all of these whatever national meltdowns, and there's always this underground, and that's what you have to cultivate. You have to cultivate the underground tribe that will provide support, stability, and know-how, regardless of what's happening way up here on the macro scale.
Even today, they have the underground markets and online underground markets and
Sure,
things like that.
sure, absolutely, yeah.
Um, Something I wanted to ask was, you talked about in your book, should I buy the land or should I rent it, and urban farming. Like, how do you make that decision? Can you give some advice for people? Should you buy it, and what's going to happen if you put all your money into buying the land?
Yeah. So it's a great question. So, if you're familiar at all with the financial guru Dave Ramsey, who is all about getting out of debt, he promotes what he calls the proximity principle. The proximity principle is get as close as you can to what you want to, where you want to be, what you want to do, and just let the path incrementally unfold. I'm not a believer in 10-year plans, 20-year plans. Who's doing today what you thought you were going to do, 10 years ago? Most of us aren't, right? And so I encourage people to get where you would like to be. Maybe that's where you are. And a lot of times where you are is the best because you've already got relationships, you've got friendships, maybe you've got family. You have, if you've been paying your bills, you have businesses that are glad to do business with you. You don't have to go and prove yourself at a new place again. And so you have this kind of emotional equity, all right, where you are. We so quickly assume that, the grass is green. What we say, the grass is greener on the other side of the fence. If I could just be over there, if I could just be there. And the truth is, there's no paradise this side of eternity. And so you have to pick where you think you can flourish. And a lot of times that's basically where you are. And what you need to do is shut off Netflix, quit eating out, sell the second car, and invest in having some neighbors over for dinner, finding out who knows how to grow stuff, who knows how to can stuff, who knows how to fix a freezer, develop that eclectic, comprehensive craft network, okay, friendships, where you are. Now, if you don't like where you are and you want to go somewhere else, well, go somewhere else. That's fine, but don't buy. Go and live. Most good options occur on what we call the QT, on the quiet. All right, because you're near, your ear is to the ground. You're hearing things, and so if you can get to where you want to go, the chances are, if you're there for a year or two and you immerse yourself in the local, if you want to have a farm or a ranch, in the local ranching community, the farming community. I get letters from 80-year-old farmers saying, can you find me a young person to inherit my farm to? I don't want to give it to my kids because they're just going to sell it for development. I love this place too much. Can you find me a person to inherit it to? We have had young people through our apprenticeship program who have had that happen. Now it doesn't happen in a year. It might happen in 5 years, 6 years, out. But you have to put your time in, and so these things take time to develop. They take time to germinate. All of this. So if you don't like where you are, you really don't want to be there, then go, but don't buy. Immerse in the local community culture. Keep your ear down. Help a farmer. If there's people that are loading cattle, building fence, chopping thistles, whatever, go help them. Just for fun. Don't ask for pay. and just build those relationships. And what you want to be is you want to be on the first wavelength of the scuttlebutt. The scuttlebutt is where the good things happen, and you don't just go traipsing into a community and expect to know the scuttlebutt. It takes time to develop where you're going to have the scuttlebutt. And the final thing that I'd say then is do something where you are with what you can. So many times people say, well, if I just had land. Well, my question then, so I'm in a city, and if I just had land, well, what are you doing now? I mean, if I go in your house, do I see, quart jars of mung bean sprouts on all the windowsills? Do I see, a hanging herb garden in pipes on the porch? That you've got herbs in the pockets. Do I see a honeybee hive up on the roof? Do I see, some backyard chickens? There's nothing about suddenly getting, if you haven't filled up where you are, there's nothing about getting more that will solve your problem. Fill up where you are, and then the next incremental step will show itself.
Yeah, I seen this one YouTube channel kid in Nashville. I say kid, he's probably maybe 30, and he's borrowing someone's land. One of his neighbors has like an acre of land just in the neighborhood, and he's in Nashville, in the city limits, and he's growing vegetables of all kinds right there on this 1 acre, and he gives the owner of the land some vegetables, and then he takes the rest to the farmer's market, and he's making, like $1,500 at a time when he goes to the farmer's market. Do you have examples of that?
That's right. Listen, some of our most successful young people launches have been building a farm enterprise on land that you don't own. We had one guy started full-time farming on nature preserve land out in Point Reyes, California, out there, and so there's a lot of these opportunities. Goodness, I'm a big fan of pastured poultry with totally portable infrastructure, and if you have portable infrastructure, you don't have to own where it sits. You can have that on a grassy spot in an airport. You can have it, in down the medians of the interstate. There's not a square foot of ranch land, wheat land, corn land, orchard, vineyard in the world that wouldn't benefit from chickens running under it as a diversified thing. And so yes, I'm a big fan, and we've actually launched even in our community with young people, neighbors, where they've launched pigs, chickens, enterprises on neighbors' land. And guess what? I'm going to fertilize this, but you don't have to pay me for the fertilizer. That's fine. I'll run chickens across here. You'll be able to raise more cows. The grass will be better and thicker, and you don't even have to pay me for this. Oh, wow, that sounds like a good deal. And so suddenly you're on land that, for free.
Does anyone know what a chicken tractor is? No? Okay. Can you explain what a chicken tractor is?
So chicken tractors come in all sorts of sizes, but essentially it's a portable shelter. So, we have egg mobiles that are on wheels. We have the Millennium Feathernet that's on skids. We have the broiler shelters that are just 10 foot by 12 foot by 2 foot high boxes that we move along the field. But essentially it's a portable chicken housing situation so that you can move the chickens along on the pasture. And if your deal goes south, you can take it up the road to another deal. We've had that happen. Somebody starts their farm and they're running, and there's a bad situation. It goes south, and okay, so they work out a deal with another guy. They throw everything on a trailer and haul it up the road. Boom, and it doesn't. Your customers will follow you. I mean, as long as you don't move more than 50 miles away, your customers will hang with you. If you're moving around. And so, you can have all sorts of satellite operations. So I'm a big believer in not, this was couched in your question, Dan, not blowing all your nest egg on the land so you have enough left over to build some chicken shelters, to get some processing equipment, to build maybe an inspected kitchen, all right, to value add and make chicken pot pies or whatever. It takes money. The value added infrastructure takes money. Stainless steel, sometimes structures and things. And so don't blow all your money. What happens is people want as much land as I can get, and they blow all their nest egg on the land, and there's nothing left over for any infrastructure. And then the next thing you know, they're hauling boards down at the sawmill because that's the only local job available in order to make ends meet because they blew all their nest egg on the land.
You'd mentioned in your book about an association for chickens around the nation. So
the American Pastured Poultry Producers Association. I call it APAPA, American Pastured Poultry Producers Association, and they are the American trade organization for pastured poultry and everything from predators to diet to marketing, everything. They do a national conference every year. Great organization.
Does a coyote taste better after he eats your chicken?
Well, I haven't eaten too many coyotes, but I'll guarantee you he'd like our chicken a lot better than a Tyson chicken, I'm sure.
I've talked to a few people about milk, and I've traveled all around the U.S., and I see different little schemes and scams that people, well, not scams, that people do just to sell raw milk. One of them being labeling milk as pet food. Well, what do you do to get around some of this, the government gumshoe, as you mentioned?
Yeah. Well, a friend of mine, John Moody, and I, back 5 years ago, started an organization. It's basically a loose knit group called the Rogue Food Conference. Go Rogue, the Rogue Food Conference. And our motto is circumvention, not compliance. And so we are showcasing in those conferences people who have clever enough to figure out end runs around what we call the food police. There is an orchestrated effort for sure certainly in the U.S. and in the EU, in all the developing countries. You don't see this and I'm not trying to be condescending. I'm just trying to be clear. In the less sophisticated developed countries, you don't see this, but definitely in the wealthy countries you do. Australia, New Zealand, U.S., EU, where the government says you can't have raw milk or you can't have a T-bone steak unless it goes through this procedure. In other words, they're defining a protocol between the farmer and the consumer that this has to go through in order for it to be legal to be sold. So what our Rogue Food Conference is doing is it's showcasing people who have figured out how to conduct a food transaction without it being in commerce. In commerce is what the government can regulate. So if you can figure out a way to take it out of commerce so that it's not a sale, then you can buy some wiggle room. So one is selling it as pet milk, not for human consumption. Another is herd share, where you buy a piece of the herd and then you can drink your milk. Another one is adjuster arrangements, where you pay a caretaker's fee and then the food is free. Another one is private membership associations, PMAs. Another one is you can rename it. So this is fish bait Colby, fish bait cheddar, fish bait. So you name it something else. Sometimes you can sometimes sell something else and give it away, because you can give food away, even raw milk. You just can't sell it, and so you can for example, give an item over here. If you buy this item, then we give you this one.
There's actually a Good Samaritan law that protects you against anything that would happen to that food too. So
yeah. And one of my favorites, the most recent one that's just come around, is with the proliferation of the internet and online courses, is offering offering courses, and then part of the course material is the food. So you offer a butchery class, and it costs $400, and you get, a box of meat with it. Or you offer a cheese making class, and you get a box of cheese as a result of taking the educational course. So there are all sorts of workarounds and circumventive kind of things in this space, and we're definitely trying to showcase those and empower people to not bow, and to realize we've got a lot of options here. We don't just have to say yes, government, and bow, and then start down the whole licensing paperwork program.
And this kind of relates to the whole organic thing. Can you explain what organic really is and what is beyond organic?
So organic, of course, I was in on the very, very beginning of it, and you can go back and read the stuff that I was writing about it 40 years ago. Wow, can it be that far away? And predicting that it would become another government boondoggle bureaucracy, and it never made sense to me that those of us in the non-chemical community would ask for government oversight when it was the U.S. I call it the U.S. The U.S. Had been our biggest naysayer, poo-pooer, enemy, for years, saying that it doesn't work. I mean, I've got the quotes from the Secretary of Agriculture, different things, saying, why if we don't use chemicals, half the world will starve, these kinds of things. And so here they were, and then you're going to put them in charge of the integrity of this of our idea. Give me a break. And so that is exactly what's happened. Once the government owned the term, so now it's illegal for me to call my stuff organic.
Even though it's the most organic.
Well, we call it beyond organic because 95% of the organic chickens, so I now always never use certified organic. I use government certified organic. I never say certified. I say government certified organic to help people to understand that it's the government that now owns the term. And so in order to be government certified organic, you don't have to have your chickens on pasture. You don't have, so they're factory farms. You don't even need soil, even though the enabling legislation over and over and over talks about soil. Now, the U.S. is the only country in the world that will government certify organic, non-soil grown vegetables and fruits, hydroponic, aeroponic. And it also prohibits some of the most clever things we've done. At the beginning of the program, you talked about our pigerator composting, where we use pigs to turn that's prohibited under government organic certification. So some of our most ecologically clever innovations are prohibited under the government certified organic recipe. And so we see it as simply it's been taken over by the industrial marketplace and adulterated, and it's gone down the path that basically, all government programs do.
Is that a trademark label of yours, or like if I decided to do some, grow things organically, actually organic, could I call it Beyond Organic, or is this something that you own?
So we started this early on, Beyond Organic, and we got a call from the California Organic Standards Board threatening to sue us because we were using the word organic. I said, I'm not saying we're organic. I'm saying we're beyond organic. I'm not saying we're organic certified. But that's how crazy these people are. And fortunately, we had an attorney who wrote them a pretty scathing letter and ended the problem. So we now use Beyond Organic routinely, and I'm thrilled that other people are using it too. No, we don't. No, we're not. We're open source.
Okay.
In fact, the same thing is true with pastured poultry. I developed that, and we're thrilled that there's a pastured poultry producers organization, and people are using. We would like pastured poultry to become a household term. We would like Beyond Organic to become a household term. We don't own this stuff. We're glad to. Salad bar beef. I coined that to try to describe our beef is not feedlot. It's not grain fed. It's a salad bar, which when you think of a salad bar, you want it fresh. So they're moved every day to a fresh, and you want a big variety. You don't want just lettuce on a salad bar. You want a bunch of stuff.
I'm not vegan, but my food is.
Yeah, yeah, right. And so the salad bar beef was a thing that I coined, and I'm thrilled when somebody calls their salad bar beef. I'd like that to be a household term. So no, we don't. We're not big on ownership.
The chickens, it's a pretty rapid thing. 8 weeks.
Yeah.
What's the process of start to finish on chickens?
Well, a meat chicken, a broiler, a Cornish cross broiler. Yeah. As early as 7 weeks, but yeah. The chick comes from a hatchery, and 7 to 8 weeks later, you've got a 4 pound, 4.5 pound, 5 pound carcass. They're pretty. We call them, and there's nothing natural about that chicken. It's not GMO, so it's not genetically modified, but they have been very much selected over time for fast growth. I call this a NASCAR race car high octane bird, and so they need high octane. They just can't go out here and eat some.
There's different levels of laying chickens,
some bugs and seeds. Right. Yeah. A very big difference between a laying chicken and a meat chicken, in the industry. And of course, some people take me to task for using, the double-breasted race car, Cornish cross broiler chicken. But one of the reasons that we do is because we very much recognize that when you're in a market, my mentor Alan Nation, who founded the Stockman Grass Farmer, always told me, in marketing, you can only be so weird. You can be a Buddhist or you can be a nudist. But if you're a Buddhist nudist, it's just too weird, and people won't believe you. And so we're telling people, no, don't get your chicken at Walmart and Costco. You want to, and don't get it pre-cooked. And then if you go on to tell them not only that, but you want a razor-breasted chicken. You don't want any of that breast meat. You want all dark meat. You've just become a nudist Buddhist. So we would rather be, let's just say, 90 to 95% pure that everybody can afford and get in on, than be 100% pure. Let's just posit that a different kind of chicken would be a little bit better. 100% pure that only doctors and attorneys and tax accountants can afford, and nobody's interested in, because it's too far out. We're trying to actually create a credible alternative to the entire industrial chicken business. Tyson, Cargill, Purdue, Pilgrim's Pride, name your critter, and we are. Oh, thank you. And we're trying to create what we want to see as a world where those factory farms don't exist. And you're not going to do that with a 16-week-old razor-breasted, all dark meat, can't cook it fast chicken. It just ain't. The first incremental. Take the first step, show a credible alternative to that whole system, and then we can continue to niche the niche as we go forward.
I was talking to a guy here yesterday. Well, actually, the first day we got here, and I was telling him, "Oh yeah, we got our ranch, and we're going to start growing chickens, and yeah, I'm going to go down to Tractor Supply and get me some chicks." And he said, "What? What are you, crazy? They vax that shit." And then he gave me some information about where to find some unvaxxed chicks. Do you use unvaxxed chicks?
No, we don't vaccinate. We don't vaccinate. We don't medicate. We don't do any of that. And in fact, we are now 10 years into hatching our own layers. Now, not our broilers, but our layers. We're hatching those, and this will be the first year that we're offering eggs, fertile eggs, for people to incubate themselves for their own chickens. And so these are chickens. These are generations removed from medications, vaccine. They've been raised on pasture. We started this 10 years ago because we were getting less and less happy with what we were getting from the hatcheries, even good hatcheries. And because none of the hatcheries raises them on pasture. And so the first year we did this, about the second year, wow, the differences that we were seeing, bigger body, more robust body. They were more docile because they were raised around us. You know, I mean, they were used to us walking in through them, more docile. See, every generation carries genetic memory in its DNA, and so that's why you have adapted abilities. For example,
domestication of dogs.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, Eskimos can take cold better than somebody in Nicaragua. Okay, and if an Eskimo goes to Nicaragua, he's gonna be hot, right? And that's why in livestock, most of our breeds carry geographic names. You know, Holstein, Guernsey Islands in Britain, Shetland,
Jersey,
yeah. Dorsetshire, okay. Almost all animals, New Hampshire Reds, Rhode Island Reds, you know, they carry these geographic names because that was a phenotype and a genetic that worked in that location. So we're kind of creating this, and it's been fun to have them.
Do you ship?
And they're smarter.
Do you ship the eggs?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What's a good way for someone to find locally just to get their live chicks, to find these unvaxxed chicks?
Well, what I would do is I would join the American Pastured Poultry Producers Association. I mean, that is the trade group that sells and networks in this space. That's the trade show. You know, if you were wanting to become a journeyman electrician, you'd get on with the local, the electrician trade, group is. So the American Pastured Poultry Producers Association is the trade organization for the, I would say, the guerrilla, the guerrilla network.
So we just got our 40 acres, and it came with a tractor and a cow. I don't know if that cow's vaccinated or not, but I think our next one will already be pregnant. So we'll try not to vaccinate that one. But they're running with other cows, so we have a grazing lease, so we get our taxes are reduced, and there's other cows running on the property. Should I worry about an unvaxxed cow running around with hanging out with vaxxed cattle? Or?
No, that the old style vaccines, they've been around a long time. That's not a problem at all. Now, I don't know what the new mRNA, which I do not call a vaccine, that's a genetic alteration thing. The mRNA, there's been indications of COVID, shedding and different things. But look, these cows aren't sick, okay? And so I wouldn't be worried about that.
Good. Marketing, but how would, if somebody wants to start a small farm and marketing local, what's your advice on marketing?
Oh, marketing. You got time for a 3-hour seminar?
Do you have a 3-hour seminar?
We have a 2-day seminar actually that we do under Stockman Grass Farmer, a marketing 2-day seminar, but for farm products. But the first thing is that you have to have a good product, and sometimes this takes a little bit of time to actually get the bug. It's just like any craft, any artisanal thing. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get the bugs worked out and get, you would never sell, a potter would never sell his first pot. You gotta break some pots. Okay. And so the same thing is true in farming. You have to, make sure that you have a good product, a dependable product. But the main thing is to to identify in your community who would be interested in this. So I call it a hit list. Make a hit list. And so who is interested in high quality food in your community. It's not the person that buys their food from the gas station, okay? And often it's not your own, it's not family and relatives because they think you're a kook already, okay? And so you're looking for your tribe. So your tribe in this space will be all of the quack medical community, all the quack doctors, the functional medicine, naturopaths, homeopaths, iridologists, acupuncture, massage therapy, herbalists, the wellness community, the fitness gym, Weston A. Price chapters, that's your...
You have a relationship with high-end restaurants and stuff too, don't you?
We do. Not as much as we did, pre-COVID, we were servicing, 30, 40 restaurants, and now it's down to about 10. Most of those went out of business and they'll never come back. That was the biggest transfer of restaurant equity from family style, good quality to fast food that's ever happened in this country. If you didn't have a drive-through window in the fall of 2020, and you were in a restaurant, you didn't have a drive-in window, you were in big trouble. So, yeah, we've had wonderful relationships with our good restaurants. Restaurants are a whole, don't start there. Start with folks in the community, families that and make a hit list. Give them some samples, and half of them will become your customers. It's a very high return rate, and then you need to take down pain points. I mean, there's so much to this. How you price, how you package, how you interface. Obviously, if you're,
I think in your book you mentioned making things like you're growing fruit, making jelly, and doing these niche
value added. Yeah, I mean the whole idea of marketing. See, the average farmer in America and in most of the world sells wholesale, sell a commodity wholesale to some other brand that processes, distributes, and markets it. And even like say Walmart is not a processor, they're a distributor, okay, and a marketer. So sometimes there are numerous brands involved all the way through. Oscar Mayer markets and processes, they don't distribute. All right, so there are numerous brands through, but the average farm only gets less than a quarter of the retail dollar. In wheat, it's about 5 cents. In beef, it's more like 30 cents, 40 cents. So it varies, but in general, there's four components. When a person goes to the grocery store and buys something, 4 people split up that money: the producer, the processor, the marketer, and the distributor. So as a small farm, if you can get those middleman hats, if you can become the processor, the marketer, and distributor, then that's the only way for a small producer to get off of the scale treadmill where you're constantly chasing your tail under small margins. And the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse that affect every farmer, weather, price, pestilence, and disease. Those, we call them the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, is what every farmer, sits around crying in their beer about: weather, price, pestilence, and disease. Those don't affect the processing, marketing, and distribution. In other words, when the grasshoppers come, they don't eat the rubber tires on your delivery vehicle. When the drought comes, it doesn't eliminate your stainless steel processing table, okay? And so every dollar you can load into processing, distributing, and marketing becomes a dollar that's insulated from weather, price, pestilence, and disease, which are the vagaries of the farmer.
Do you have how much cattle do you have? Or
we have about 1,000 head of cattle.
About 1,000 head of cattle, and how many chickens are you running there?
We'll run 25,000, 30,000 broiler chickens, meat chickens, 2,000 turkeys, 1,000 hogs. We get at our peak, we'll get 200 dozen eggs a day from our layers.
that's big. When I go to the farmers markets, and it's like if you're not there at right when it opens, you don't get any eggs. They're all the all the farmers' eggs are gone. You can find all you want at the store, but everybody wants these farm fresh eggs. So that's a big. That's a big.
Eggs are for us. We call eggs our gateway product. A gateway product is a product that's easy to get in, and that's ubiquitous. In other words, eggs have very few religious, ethnic prohibitions, as opposed to, say, pork. Eggs are ubiquitous. Almost every culture, every ethnicity, every religion eats eggs for the most part. I mean, even vegetarians eat eggs. And so, and they come in a small package, so you can what we call you can get in for little. If you're buying whatever a quarter of a beef, you got to have $1,000 sitting around in your pocket, and the average American right now can't put their hands on $400.
You mentioned the religious thing, and you also kind of time your different meats, like lamb. You time it with Muslim religious holidays. Or?
We don't. We've just when they're ready to go, they're ready to go. And we're much more interested in going with our ecology. So, in our ecology, in our seasons, in our grass growth cycle, there's a time when you want to have calves and when you don't want to have calves, when you want to have lambs and when you don't want to have lambs. And those don't always coincide with, for example, Passover and things like that are Middle Eastern and have a totally different ecology than Virginia, Shenandoah Valley ecology. And so when you try to hit those, then suddenly you're completely skewed and off of what a sheep in our area would like to do, because you're trying to hit a holiday that was developed 5,000 years ago on the other side of the planet. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not denigrating that at all. Okay, I'm just saying that we go with our local ecology and let it fall where it will.
And the highest ROI is definitely chickens, meat birds, or.
Well, the fastest ROI is chicken, meat birds. Yeah, fastest ROI. I mean, 7, 8 weeks. I mean, that's as fast as a radish. Okay, so yeah, it's very, very quick. Then you would have pigs would be next. They're more like 8, 9 months, and then you have lamb, which is about the same as a pig, and then you have the cow, which is turkey. I'm sorry, chicken and turkey. Turkey is more like 16 to 17 weeks, and then the last one is a cow. That's a 2.5 year process.
Aside from Thanksgiving, is there a market for turkey all year? Or
most people don't realize that 80% of the turkeys sold in the U.S., 80% are not sold at Thanksgiving. They're further processed into turkey bologna, turkey ham, turkey salami, turkey. They're not sold as whole turkeys. Only 20% of the turkeys in the U.S. are sold as whole turkeys for Thanksgiving, and so we actually grind a lot of our turkeys up and sell it as ground turkey for people who don't want to eat beef, but they want lasagna. They want meatloaf, and they do it, and they use turkey instead, and it's a real hot seller. It's a real hot seller and a way to value add. And actually use up turkeys that maybe have maybe you busted up a wing in the picker, or maybe you've got some blemish, and you can grind that bird up and value add it.
What would you advise people to have for say meat birds? You need a feather plucker, and
minimal.
What's kind of the shopping list I'll need to start some birds?
Exactly, minimal equipment. Listen, you don't have to process very many chickens to want a little bit of equipment, and so these little tub pluckers from Featherman Plucker, they're cheap. They're really just a little plastic barrel with the bottom plate that spins. If you're going to do goodness, 50 chickens, you want to get one of those. And the beauty is once you have that equipment, so the three pieces of equipment are a killing cone, so you can put them in, and they're in a cone. And they don't bruise themselves and flop all around. A a scalder, some sort of a thermostatically controlled scalder that'll keep at temperature, and then the automatic feather picker. Those are the three items. And I mean, as far as a table, you can work on a picnic table, on a card table. I mean, you can work on anything in that score. And what you find, what almost everybody that does this finds, if you get that equipment very quickly, you're suddenly doing stuff for neighbors, and you've got, word gets around. And because processing equipment is, that's the hurdle for the chickens. I mean, the beauty of the stuff that you skin, like a rabbit, a beef, even a pig, you can skin. The stuff that you skin, all you need is a way to hang it, and you can skin it. But a chicken, you got to get those feathers off somehow.
I was in FFA in high school, and I had to plucking feathers was not fun.
No. But the secret to the pluck is the scald. If you get the scald right, the pluck will work.
Last question: rabbits. How about rabbits?
Rabbits.
What's the timeline on rabbits? And
a rabbit 12 weeks from birth. But of course, you have to have a doe. The doe will take 20 weeks, and then she can breed. So if you're buying a doe, when she kindles, those bunnies are ready to process in about 12 weeks. So it's between a chicken and a turkey.
All right. How can people find out more about Polyface Farms, and where should they follow you? And
polyfacefarms.com. That's our website. It's a very comprehensive website. I've written 16 books. You can get books there. You can see where I'm speaking. You can get swag. And we have a T-shirt, Compost the Bureaucrats. And you can come to the farm for a gathering, and we do all sorts of informational seminars as well, tours, in-depth seminars. We do a 2-day Polyface Intensive Discovery Seminar. So there's a lot there. Go park at Polyface Farms and enjoy it.
And tonight there is the Sovereign Living Dinner, which will be Joel, Marjorie, who's sitting right over here, and David Avocado Wolf, as well as Jeff Berwick. And he's giving free foot rubs to everyone that attends. Maybe not. May not actually be true. So thanks very much. And Joel's talk is also today at 2:55, so don't miss that, man. Thanks a lot.